Having searched for literature related to remote learning and student social emotional skills, I'm pretty sure I would go with a descriptive study. I would select this type of study because it's designed to paint a picture of an existing situation. The lack of current research makes me think that a description of what is currently happening is an appropriate place to start. From this decision, there are a couple of directions I could take. I could ask the research question, how do students feel during remote learning? And use my research to help to establish a baseline related to student social and emotional well-being related to their remote learning experience. Or I could ask the research question, what are teachers doing to promote student social emotional learning during remote learning? And use my research to examine the range of ways social emotional learning can be embedded into remote learning. Bishop Clark and Dietz Uhler say descriptive research allows us to observe natural situations without affecting them. This undertaking feels like an appropriate starting place for my interest in using social emotional learning during remote learning to help students combat the stress of isolation and fears related to their personal security and safety. Granted, using this approach doesn't allow the researcher to suggest any causal relationships, but it would be a useful starting place upon which to build future research. For both potential research questions, I believe it would be appropriate to collect large amounts of data using student and teacher surveys respectively. For both research questions, this data could be collected using an online survey across multiple institutions. In the absence of existing surveys, I would pilot a survey to determine its reliability and validity. I would use open-ended questions so as not to constrain responses. As this research would be designed to help establish the existing state of remote learning and social emotional needs, I believe it would be important to have a large, diverse sample and allow respondents to use their own words. This method would allow for the collection of a broad range of experiences and hopefully achieve data saturation, allowing for analysis which presents the most comprehensive description of the range of possibilities and experiences to answer the research questions. After data collection, I would use qualitative research techniques to evaluate the data. I would use inductive analysis to look for themes in my data and then analyze those themes for patterns and connections using the constant comparative method. My goal would be to use the data to understand and describe the current situation. If I selected the first research question proposed, how do students feel during remote learning, I would hope to uncover the range of emotions and the types of difficulties students are experiencing during remote learning. I believe this knowledge would contribute to SOTL because it would provide a starting place for teachers and researchers who want to examine their own practices. Teachers have anecdotal data and personal beliefs about what students need when they are participating in remote learning, but there's not a body of literature related to student experiences. Analysis of a large data set would help teachers understand student problems and needs and create a starting place for teacher intervention. Likewise, the analysis would provide researchers with baseline information which can be used to design further research to assess interventions related to student needs during remote learning. If I selected the second research question, what are teachers doing to promote student social emotional learning during remote learning, I would hope to identify a large number of instructional strategies teachers are utilizing to address the needs of their students. The outcome of this research would provide teachers with strategies they could consider to meet the needs of their students and could be used by researchers to set up future research to determine the effectiveness of selective strategies. I believe both of these research questions could be used as the basis for SOTL research. In both cases, the research is practical and will help the researcher as well as others to improve teaching and learning. Peer review and public sharing of the results would fill an existing gap in the literature and provide researchers with a description of the current situation that could be used for future research. Thank you for listening, and here are my references.